All right, let's get right into it. Building your own PC. Yeah, it can seem like this huge, intimidating thing, right? Like something only super geniuses can do. But what if it's not? What if it's more like a journey that honestly anyone can take? In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the whole process. We're going to turn this complex-looking project into something clear, totally doable, and trust me, incredibly rewarding.
So does the idea of all those little parts and wires and connectors kind of make your head spin, like you're about to dump out a 1,000-piece puzzle with no picture on the box? Yet, you're definitely not alone. That's a super common feeling when you're just starting out, staring at a pile of expensive boxes.
And you know what? That feeling is totally valid. The source material really hits the nail on the head, calling it a jigsaw puzzle where every piece has to fit into a specific, sometimes sensitive location. But here's the secret. Every puzzle has a solution. So think of this as your guide, your map. We're going to solve this thing together, piece by piece.
Every awesome build starts with an awesome plan. This first part, it's all about you being the architect. Before you even think about clicking Buy Now on a single part, you've got to design the blueprint. And it all boils down to two really simple things. What are you going to use it for, and how much do you want to spend?
Okay, so this is where you start making some key choices. Imagine your budget is a pizza. If you're building a gaming rig, you're giving a huge slice of that pizza to the graphics card, the GPU, no question. But if you're a content creator, you're going to want to cut bigger slices for the CPU and the RAM to chew through all that heavy work. And if you're building a home server or a NAS, it's all about a motherboard with lots of connections and a case with tons of room for hard drives.
Now let's talk size. Do you want a giant tower that makes a statement? Or maybe something small and slick that fits neatly on your desk? This is what we call form factor. ATX is the big one. Micro ATX is in the middle, and Mini ITX is tiny. This choice dictates your case size and how much stuff you can cram in there later. Just remember, bigger isn't automatically better. It's about what's right for you.
Blueprint? Check. Now it's time to pick our parts. I like to think of this as assembling your very own A-team. Each component is a specialist with a critical role to play in the mission. So, let's meet the team.
First up, the brains of the whole operation, the CPU. This is the chip that does pretty much all the heavy lifting. Now, here's a pro tip. Don't get hypnotized by a big clock speed number, the gigahertz. The real story of how powerful a CPU is, well, it's found in independent, real-world reviews. Always check the reviews.
Next, meet the artist, the GPU. This is what paints every single beautiful pixel on your monitor. It's an absolute must for gamers and creative pros. When you're looking at different cards, think of the onboard memory, the VRAM, as the artist's paint supply. More is usually better, but you've got to make sure it's fast memory. And keep an eye out for awesome features like ray tracing that can make your games look unbelievably real.
And what holds the whole team together? The skeleton, the motherboard. It's the central nervous system that everything else plugs into. And hey, let me give you a little budget-saving tip. You probably don't need a crazy expensive high-end motherboard. For most people, a solid, mid-range board that has the slots and features you actually need is the smartest way to go.
Now let's talk about short-term memory or RAM. Think of this as your computer's desk space. The more RAM you have, the more applications you can have open at once without things slowing down. And here's a super important trick. Most motherboards run best with 2 sticks of RAM working together. It's called dual channel. To make that work, you have to buy your memory in a matching pair. It's a free performance boost.
For your long-term storage, we have the library. The best setup these days is a combo platter. You get a super fast NVMe SSD to put your operating system and your favorite games on. That's what makes everything feel so snappy. Then you pair that with a big, cheap, old-school mechanical hard drive for all your bulk storage, your giant photo library, videos, that kind of thing.
And finally, the unsung hero, the heart of your PC, the power supply. Listen, if there's one component you never, ever skimp on, it's this one. A good power supply means a stable system and protects all your other expensive parts. And that old 80+ sticker, it's kind of outdated. The source material suggests looking for newer, better certifications from places like Cybernetics Lab. Oh, and try to get a modular one. It lets you use only the cables you need, which makes building, 1,000 times cleaner and easier.
All right, the A-team is assembled. Now for the really fun part, actually putting it all together. We're heading into the core assembly. This is where it all comes to life. Just take it slow, step by step, take a deep breath, and let's get building. So before we even touch the PC case, here is a fantastic little trick. Just use the box the motherboard came in as your workbench. Seriously, It creates this perfect anti-static, slightly raised surface to safely install all the first bits and pieces. It's simple, but it's brilliant.
Okay, this is where it starts to feel real. We're going to prep the motherboard outside the case. First, very carefully, we'll install the CPU, making sure the little triangles line up. Next comes that super satisfying click as you lock the RAM sticks into place. Then you just slide in your M2 drive. And finally, you mount the CPU cooler, tightening the screws down in an X pattern for nice, even pressure.
Okay, hang on. Stop for a second. This right here, this is probably the single biggest mistake first-time builders make, and it can be a disaster. Inside your case are little brass standoffs, where the motherboard screws in. You have to make sure there is only a standoff where there is a screw hole on your motherboard. An extra one touching the back of the board will cause a short circuit and can fry your board instantly. Double check this. Nope, triple check it. I'm serious.
Whew, okay. With our motherboard all prepped and that critical warning taken to heart, it's time to get everything inside the case. Let's move on to the final assembly and watch this pile of parts become a PC.
We are so close now, you can almost taste it. First, pop that little metal I/O shield into the back of the case. Now listen to me, this next tip will save you so much pain and suffering. Run the CPU power cable up through the back of the case before you screw the motherboard down. Trust me on this. Okay, once that's done, gently lower the motherboard in, screw it down, slide in your big, powerful GPU, and start plugging everything in. See? It's starting to look like a real computer.
Hold on. Before you put the side panel on and call it a day, it's time for a quick pre-flight check. You can actually power the system on for the first time by just briefly touching the two little power switch pins on the motherboard with a screwdriver. It sounds a little scary, but it's a great way to make sure the CPU, RAM, and GPU are all working before you spend an hour making all the cables look pretty.
So the hardware is built, it turns on, we're in the end game now. The final step doesn't involve a screwdriver at all, it's just you and your keyboard. We need to jump into the system's brain, the BIOS, or UEFI, to put on the finishing touches and unlock all the power you paid for.
Welcome to your PC's command center. First things first, let's just do a quick system check, make sure the computer sees your CPU, all your RAM, and your storage drives. Good. Next, you're going to flip one very important switch. It's called either XMP or EXP. This tells your RAM to stop jogging and start sprinting at its full advertised speed. And finally, we're going to enable something called resizable bar. It basically opens up a bigger data highway between your CPU and GPU, giving you a nice little free performance boost in games.
And that's it. Just like that, you did it. You went from a bunch of boxes and parts to a fully operational, custom-built PC. You took the map, you followed the steps, and you solved the puzzle. So the only real question left is, now that you have this power, what amazing new worlds are you going to build? What are you going to create? What are you going to explore?